Hey guys, before the video begins, I just want to let you guys all know that I've got a completely revamped merch store. The link is in the description if you're interested, and stick around till the end of the video to find out more. Before I get into this video, I do realize my videos talking about high school have been, for lack of a better word, controversial. People were very upset about the way I talked about my experiences and what happened to me and what I did. So I figured I would tell the entire story. It all started in September of 2013. I was enrolled into a local STEM school whose name I will keep anonymous. It was somewhat my choice, but mostly my mother's. She insisted this high school would be good for me. Of course, I had no idea of what I was getting into. It was a tiny school, and that was both good and bad for me. Coming from a large middle school, I knew how scary it could and would be to go into the local huge high schools in my area, with classes of up to 300. I was a shy, awkward introvert, and I knew I'd be really uncomfortable in a huge environment like that. My main concern was finding someone to sit next to at lunch. So I agreed to go to the smaller high school, where my total class size would be 50 in 9th grade. Oh, what a horrible mistake I made. I will always regret the choice I made to go to that school. I missed out on a real high school experience, i.e. making good, real friends. The main reason I hated that high school was the fact that I was such an outcast. Some could say that it was my own fault for being a quiet snark who snapped at people when they attempted to talk to me, which is true, sometimes. Maybe I was judgmental, rude, or whatever, but I knew the very few that ever bothered to approach me weren't looking for friendship. I was only approached when people were looking for something, so I wasn't approached until 12th grade. The reason for this being my YouTube channel. I was a small fry, but even then people who religiously ignored me for 3 years all of a sudden were interested in me and my life, and I knew that. I knew they didn't care about me or my personality or anything I had to offer. They were interested in me now because I finally had something of interest to them. As for the people that tolerated me for 3 years, well, I would say I approximately had 2 acquaintances. One of which was just a sweet person who was nice to everyone, and the other was a relaxed bookworm type who's probably going to end up being a CEO or something. There was a third, but we don't talk about her, she doesn't count. In 10th grade, I had 4 friends, my peak. The only friend I ever really got along with was a girl, let's call her Stephanie. She was my type of friend, loud like me, funny, outgoing, and always had something to say. I appreciate people like that, people like me. Unfortunately, just like many of my classmates, she realized just how shit the school was and dipped out in 11th grade to one of the bigger schools. I remember thinking about doing it myself because I too hated the high school, but I also knew how easy it was to pass in that school. I did the literal minimum, which was far below the minimum in any other high school. Had I been doing the amount of work I was doing in that high school in a mainstream big one, I would have failed out or still be in 9th grade. I knew just how lazy I was, and I knew I was wasting my time with that 8th grade level learning we were getting in that high school. Would I have been paying attention to more interesting, engaging topics in a bigger high school? Maybe, maybe not. I'm the type of person that only pays attention when I care. I can't say I gave a crap about physics or math, so I couldn't invest my energy into caring about it. That's why I wasn't a person who could stay in college for more than a year. Why pay money for something I don't really care about? By the way, I'm not saying college isn't for everyone, it just wasn't for me, but that's a separate video. As for my fellow students, I can't say they were interesting. I mean, you could say the same about me. I sat at home playing video games and drawing constantly. But my point is, I thrive on conversation. Having intelligent, interesting, engaging conversation. And these people were incapable of that. Usually, just wanting to talk about K-pop, YouTube, or the new CSGO games. When I was younger, I'd always hoped high school would be the time I'd make awesome friends, maybe get a boyfriend, and make some amazing memories. Unfortunately for me, I was left with a bad taste in my mouth for 4 years. I remember keeping tabs on some of the people who dipped out of the high school into the bigger ones, and seeing them post about making new friends, and joining all sorts of cool clubs, and it made me really jealous. But I stayed in that school, and that was my fault. I guess also my mother's fault for insisting I stayed. I never cared about my education. I'm not an academically driven person. I did the bare minimum to get by, as I mentioned before. I had pretty shit grades, and the only class I ever got an A in was my speech class, and I'm pretty sure that's just because I can talk really loud. 1 or 2 of my teachers that actually cared always told me if I put more effort in, I could probably excel, but I never cared or had the energy for that. I preferred to keep my low energy reserves for things I care about, like drawing or playing video games after school, not quadratic equations or Punnett squares. I was and am a low energy person. I've had anemia on and off since I was 13, mostly because I'm not a big fan of veggies or red meat. Anemia basically just means you have low iron in your blood. And the most common symptom is just being tired all the time, which I can confirm is how I am. I was especially tired in high school when I'd run on 5 hours of sleep because I stayed up all night playing Mass Effect, and being passed out by second period. which made me hate the school even more, because if I got no sleep, I basically lost an entire day, because, like I said, I'm a low-energy person, so I need to have lots of sleep in order to get through the day properly. Even now, as a 19-year-old living on her own, I need at least 9 to 10 hours to function properly, and me being the dingus I am, my sleep schedule is messed up beyond hell. I go to bed at 4 to 5 a.m. and wake up at 2 to 4 p.m. A mess. Thankfully, I have YouTube as a career so I can work in the wee hours of the night, but imagine if I had a regular job. Oof. But anyway, high school, right? I remember 9th grade was the worst year for me. In the start, I actually had formed my own friend group, a few girls I'd collected, all cool people, one of which being a makeup addict who I'd actually hung out with after school at her crazy fancy house. But she left the school after a month and we never spoke again. But I'd collected a group of them, about 4, all people I could have seen myself getting close to if they'd stuck around, but they slowly all vanished until one day I had no friends. 9th grade sucked for me. After they left, I literally had no one, and I realized my worst fears. I had nowhere to sit at lunch. Talking about this makes me very sad for poor 14-year-old me. Since I had nowhere to sit at lunch, I'd go into my science teacher's room and sit on the shit Dell laptops the school gave us, and eat the shit lunch all alone in there. But sometimes she'd lock her room and leave, so one day in November when it was freezing out, I had to sit on the cold concrete and eat the rubbery lunchroom pizza all alone. Now, let's remember 12th grade. Like I said, all of a sudden, the same people who ignored the poor 14-year-old sitting alone on the cold concrete, all of a sudden were interested in her. Now, this annoyed me. I never sipped on that dumb bitch juice, so I wouldn't play into their games. Some from my old high school may call me mean for my behavior towards them when they would be friendly. But I saw right through that shit. Where was this interest in me when I was completely alone in 9th grade, Nowhere, because I had nothing to offer them. I was just a weird 14-year-old who drew and wrote fanfiction in her free time. Now that I was a 17-year-old with a growing YouTube channel, I had something they wanted. So, what'd I do? I was rude to them, biting back at them, snapping when they'd talk to me. Sorry, but I'm not going to accept your fake friendship when you ignored me for 4 years. I knew what they were looking for. I was a cold, hard little bitch in high school. Yes, it's true. I may have denied it at the time, but when I think about it, I knew what I was, for many reasons, of course. Now, I never went out of my way to be an ass to people in high school. In high school, at least. Unless they approached, I left people alone. I usually just observed and stayed in my lane. Now, let's talk about the one guy who actually, get this, bullied me. Yes, I was bullied in 12th grade. Towards the end of my time there, this one fucking bitch, for lack of a better word, decided it would be best interests to start harassing me. The guy literally followed me around campus and stood way too close to me in class. He was a complete and total ass. Let's call him Nutsack, because that's what me and my friends refer to him as. Complete and total dickhead. This guy just all of a sudden one day started standing behind me in my 4th period class and watching what I did on my laptop, and started asking to be put in videos. I realize I'm giving him exactly what he wants, but I don't care. He deserves to be flamed. I don't really know what was wrong with him or why he targeted me. I didn't ever do anything to him or speak to him, but he decided to be a chode to me. The guy would scream, "Hey, Spechiee," at me across the campus and trail me to my car. I should have honestly reported him to the counselor, but I just ignored him, which I think infuriated him because he just got worse and kept trying to get a rise out of me. One day, when he refused to leave me alone and blocked me from going to the bathroom, I stood up and hissed at him, "If you don't get the fuck out of my way, I'm going to punch you so hard in the face you bleed." And he moved. But that was the only time I ever retaliated back. I do remember one instance where I appreciated my classmates. He was sauntering over to me to bother me again, and a couple of the guys got up and blocked his path to me and started telling him to leave me alone. He, being a weak beta male that he was, gave up and sat back down. I did appreciate that and thanked them later. Nutsack was a total and utter chode, and if he's out there watching this, I have one message to him. Fuck you, guy. You suck. Anyway, yes, I was a negative person in high school. Yes, I was kind of rude. I had a bad time for 4 years and I'm glad it's over. Dearest viewer, if you are going into high school or currently in your first year, try to be as positive as possible. I know it's hard and it's ironic coming from me, the queen of negativity, but trust me, being positive will make it so much easier to get through the day. Instead of sitting around being mad about not getting into the class with your friend or focusing on how much your math teacher smells like foot, try to focus on the fact that you go home at 2:40. And once you get your homework done, you have the rest of the day to yourself, or your pet is at home waiting for you. It'll make the day go by easier. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and so, as mentioned before, I have a new merch store, and guess what, guys? Lime green hoodies. Can you believe it? They're finally here. After a year of me talking about wanting to make lime green hoodies, I finally found a company willing to work with me to make lime green hoodies, and they're great quality. I actually have one, and it's amazing. It's so soft. It's way better than Teespring. And also, I have hats if that's your forte. Again, links are in the description if you're interested. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'm going to be making some Christmas merch if you're interested in that. And I'm going to be having some great deals on merch during the holidays. Thanks for supporting the channel. Buying merch really helps me out. I really appreciate it. And thanks. I hope you guys really like it like I do. Get your parents' wallet ready. Kidding, don't steal your parents' wallet. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.